Joining us now on the Savage Nation for his exclusive update on the healthcare non-debate is Robert Scott Bell.
Thanks again, Michael. Great to be back with the Savage Nation audience as the days get longer, the days get warmer up here in the Northern Hemisphere. We've got to reveal, with all the sunlight we have, all the corruption and, how would we say it? I mean, the intoxication of the Washington, D.C. Politburo, is it? The Obamacares of the world, things like that. Well, whether Obamacare proves to be unconstitutional or not, because clearly we know that it is, what will be its demise inevitably is the fact that there's no money to pay for it. Good Lord, you got to have money to pay for it. And you've got Nancy Pelosi going on record telling all the artists of America to just stop working. You can quit your job because all the taxpayers are going to pay for their health care.
This is unbelievable to me. Play the clip.
We see it as an entrepreneurial bill, a bill that says to someone, if you want to be creative and be a musician or whatever, you can leave your work, focus on your talent, your skill, your passion, your aspirations, because you will have health care. You don't have to be job locked.
Unbelievable.
It's absolutely amazing. This woman has gotten constrained. Her brain is not getting oxygen and nutrients anymore. Man. And then we have the disease of inflation on top of the disease of Obamacare. And, this I think we covered this last week. The American Cancer Society was upset because there was actually a presidential panel that was investigating potential causes for cancer. And this panel, believe it or not, acknowledged environmental causes of cancer. Toxins from the environment, pollutants, pesticides, different synthetics. And the American Cancer Society is up in arms because all they want to do is attack tobacco. And I don't know if anybody's ever investigated. Of course they have, but if you ever looked into the big tobacco companies, I think the least of all the ingredients in a tobacco cigarette is tobacco. And of course, if you're actually smoking like the Native Americans supposedly smoked tobacco, they weren't getting much lung cancer. So the reality is, of course, these toxic poisons are problematic, but unfortunately, big government is in defense of big business rather than the health of the people. And the FDA, which we coin now as the Fear and Death Administration, just wants to prevent you and me and the people from knowing about the dangers of things that have been lobbied into special status. That's right. This week, we get word from the FDA that their panel still recommends or promotes the Rotarix vaccine.
Well, what is that?
This is the rotavirus that they're concerned about, childhood diarrhea, very rare, not so super common. And in fact, when we know that we can correct diarrheal diseases simply by putting probiotics in, doing other things, very self-limiting, most of these diarrheal diseases, very easy to overcome. But no, the FDA insists that the Rotarix virus, even though it is contaminated with pig virus DNA, is still considered safe for injection into children. So they want you docs out there to still keep plugging away at injecting these vaccines, may be contaminated with DNA from pig viruses. Now, Michael, if this were to happen to a vitamin, mineral, or trace mineral for ingestion, let's just talk about a dietary supplement. Somebody finds out, hey, look, there's a foreign pig virus DNA on that vitamin pill. They would pull that product off the market in a second. And that's just for ingestion. In a healthy child, if you actually ingested that, your digestive system would be enough to eradicate it probably on its own, the seat of your immune system. But no, if you can inject that in a Rotarix virus, the insanity here, it's just sometimes perplexing to me. But then you got Pelosi telling all artists to just take off of work because taxpayers are going to fund your medical care. And of course, it is not health care. We covered this so well. It is disease management. And then I talked about the disease of inflation because we've got economic health and healing issues we got to cover, and I know you do as well. The euro is set to tank because the Germans, who are largely the engine of the economy of Europe, Merkel has voted to somehow, I don't know if it's a vote, but to bail out the economy of Greece by printing more euros. And I don't know, anytime you're really an aficionado of history, Michael, what you know so well, I don't think there's been a time in the recorded history of planet Earth where every country on the planet has basically fiat money not backed by anything. And of course, the Coinage Act of 1792, which has never been repealed, of course, made gold and silver the only thing that was really money. And if you were to print pieces of paper, they were to be redeemed in that which was considered money historically and under our Constitution. Yet we have this concept that inflation is somehow the raising or elevating of prices, rather than the reality is that the inflation is printing more money that is backed by nothing, and of course the symptom of inflation is rising prices. We get the symptom and the disease completely confused. As I've said here, holistically speaking, we know the symptom is just, it's a signal. It's telling you something. You're doing something wrong. Economically, physiologically, it doesn't matter. But we have a bunch of children running Washington, D.C. Obama reads his teleprompter. It says, health care for all, which is Orwellian speak for forced pharmaceutical slavery. And if the drugs don't get you, of course, the debt that they want to pass on to your kids and grandkids will.
Exactly.
So I ask your listening audience, do you like being led into bankruptcy by irresponsible little children? Because adults do not hold the belief that deficits and debt can be run up without limit or consequence. And that would be what I'd call a clue as to the fact that we do not have adults running Washington, D.C. Maybe ruining it, but not running it. So what do we do to put a stop before it irreparably harms all of our children and grandkids? We can't rely on the Fear and Death Administration to protect us from DNA from pig viruses in vaccinations. And we certainly can't rely on Ben Bernanke and Timothy Geithner or anybody in the Obama administration to call a halt to the disease of inflation. And when we have the acknowledgement, as we did last week, that the FDA says Americans do not have a fundamental right to enter into private contractual agreements with one another, well, where is America? Do we even exist as a country, as a culture, or as a government that was designed by men who really understood the laws of creation to defend and protect liberty, not to run roughshod over it? And the good news is there are Americans that are standing up, taking notice, and trying to do something about it. And last week, or within the last 2 weeks here, the a big lawsuit was filed in the Northern District of Ohio by my dear friend Jonathan Emord. We've talked about him. He's beaten the FDA back more times than any other attorney in history. And he has filed a suit with the United States Citizens Association to challenge the constitutionality of the Obamacare law.